Jamestown. So Jamestown is the first permanent colony or settlement in North America. That was the answer to the pretest question. It is Jamestown. It's still there. It's a historic site now. It's actually very close to Williamsburg. So Williamsburg still has the historic area. You can just drive from Williamsburg easily to Jamestown for a half day and explore this town. It's still there. They still have anthropologists digging people up there. So, how did we get Jamestown? Once again, we tried Roanoke, and Roanoke was supposed to be a permanent settlement. There were men and women there. However, they disappeared, left the word Croatoan. Nobody knows what happened. That's the only written word left. So England, by the way, is a monarchy at this time. It is still England, ruled by Elizabeth I. She did not like the Spanish, by the way, for several reasons. It has to do with the Church of her father breaking off from the Catholic Church and establishing the Church of England to marry her mother. And then, time passed, he died. Her brother Edward became king. He was always sickly. He died. He was a preteen, barely, not even quite into his teens. I believe he was only 12. And then her sister Mary comes back. Mary's married to the Spanish king, by the way. And Mary's devout Catholic. You might have heard of her nickname, Bloody Mary. So she tries to force everybody back to Catholicism. By the way, despite being married to the Spanish king, she loved her husband. He didn't love her. Big tragedy. Then she's back trying to force everybody to convert back to Catholicism. There's a reason she's got the nickname Bloody. She was really trying to force them. Remember, her grandparents started the Spanish Inquisition. So they happily brought Elizabeth in to replace her older half-sister. And Elizabeth took over, brought peace. Doesn't care what your religion is, just as long as you pay me my taxes and you're obedient to my laws, we're good. Great queen. But she wanted more goods, and she had that whole tiff with Spain. You might have heard of the Spanish Armada. She destroyed that. So she's leading. She's got this nice kingdom, brought peace to her people again. But the Spanish are becoming rich off of this new world and continent that Columbus crash landed, to Hispania, not even knowing it was a whole continent. Amerigo Vespucci finally figures out there's two continents here, hence why it's called America, because a cartographer had read his book, which said, there's two continents there, and so he drew both continents and named them North and South America after Amerigo Vespucci. Well, she wants in on the game. So English law is limited to Queen's power right there when the Virginia Company is established, although Jamestown is named after the next king, James I of England, aka 6 of Scotland, and then we're no longer England, we're Great Britain. So it guarantees. So English law, by the way, at this point, as I said, limited the king's power. That's because of the Magna Carta, which was one of your vocabulary words today. And the Senate's and Parliament are gaining more and more power, especially with the end of the Tudor dynasty with Elizabeth. So now we have the Stuarts. So they're starting to gain power, and it's going to be a struggle for several generations. But this law does give everybody a right to trial by jury, and that's not even the Magna Carta. That comes back from common law, which was started by William the Conqueror, William I, William of Normandy, whichever you want to call him. So common law gives you the right to a trial by jury. And Parliament has to approve the taxes. They kept that power because, the House of Lords are the nobles. They still are. You do not elect somebody to the House of Lords. They're born into it. House of Commons, yes. Well, so the one thing they're agreeing on, the monarch and the Parliament, is we want colonies in the Americas. We need to get a piece of this. And we don't care about the Treaty of Tordesillas because we're not Catholic, so who cares what the Pope says, because we don't listen to him anyway. So England began to set up colonies in North America in the late 1500s. Roanoke is established in 1585, but is mysteriously abandoned. Nobody knows what happened for sure to the people. There's a lot of theories, but nobody's sure. England tries once more, time in Roanoke in 1587. In 1590, once again the colony just mysteriously disappeared, left the word Croatoan, and they're gone. So in 1607, we're at Jamestown. And these guys were chartered. So the Virginia Company has a bunch of investors, and they've got the okay of the monarch to establish this colony. 1603-7. So this is James. Sorry, decided to do the math in my head quickly on who was king or queen, because Elizabeth dies the first decade of the 1600s. So they form the Virginia Company of London, and the nobles are investing in this. This is how nobles make money, because it is considered not the thing for nobles to go get a job. This was used to be frowned on. It still kind of is. They get their money from taxes. Part of the whole Meghan Markle, Prince Henry scandal, where they left for Canada and even said, we're going to go get jobs. Yes, the men traditionally do serve in the military, so Henry doesn't know how to work, by the way. He's a military captain, or pilot. So, what they would do is invest their money into these ventures. If the ventures do well, they basically play the stock market. You get your money back plus some. If they don't do well, you've lost everything. Well, here's Spain and Portugal bringing back all this gold and goods from South America and Central America. So like, well, we want gold and silver. Problem being, those of you who know your geography, there's no gold east of the Mississippi in North America. No gold there whatsoever. Or in Canada, north of where the Mississippi would be, except it starts, in America. Yeah. There's just no gold on this part of the country, in the eastern part of the country. Or silver. It's not there. They also want to trade with the Native Americans. There were plenty of Native Americans there at the time. Not anymore, but at the time there were plenty of Native Americans. And they need other raw materials. So yes, places to plant grapes. Grapes are a Greek product. Mulberry trees. But the big thing is the lumber. Sorry, people who like Robin Hood. Nottingham Forest has pretty much been cut down to the point where you could walk your dog through it. They actually have a whole conservative effort right now to regrow that forest, but England had used up all her forests. They'd pretty much cut down all their trees and to build their boats, and then they're realizing, oh wait, we don't have any trees left. They weren't thinking about a renewable source and controlling their productivity. So, one thing I can tell you eastern United States has, eastern part of North America, there's plenty of trees. So they wanted the lumber. So, Great Britain's king, I know it says England, but at this point you are Great Britain, not England, because when Elizabeth died, her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots' son, James, became King of England. He was already King of Scotland. But it goes back to the fact that Mary's great-grandmother was King Henry's older sister. King Henry VIII, father of Elizabeth. Well, Henry VIII's older sister married the King of Scotland. So the King of Scotland inherited England, and we become Great Britain. So Great Britain's King James I, who was actually the 6th of Scotland, grants the company a charter. This means you are legal. I'm going to back you up. I don't care where you are a British citizen. You've got the protections of the British government and the protections that come with being a British citizen. This is the same concept that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you as an American citizen are still protected by the Constitution. That is a charter it is a charter. that protects all American citizens, no matter where it's, why they call it an umbrella. It's there to protect you. So in 1607, 100 men built a fort in Chesapeake Bay, establishing the first permanent settlement, Jamestown. This is Jamestown. The walls are still there, by the way. So are some of the houses. As I said, you can go tour this. So that is established in 1607 for the purpose of making a profit. These guys did not come with seeds to plant farms. They did not come with the equipment they needed. They came with equipment to go dig gold and silver out of the earth, only to find out there's no gold or silver there. That's one thing that the movie Pocahontas got right. Pretty much the only thing. Except the names. So, on the brink of failure. It almost fails. It does. It's... Why? 1, there's no gold. 2, the colonists quickly caught malaria because while it's on an island on the James River, it's a marsh. There's disease there. So English gentlemen, who there first had no intention to work. They would just eat out of the storage, the food supply that was left and brought. They were not farming their own. So while there's land and a few people are trying to farm, they are trying to basically feed everyone. And as I said, the gentlemen do not work. They will go on these adventures. So the governor wasn't working. The officers were not working. This did not work. So the local Native Americans decide to take pity on these poor white men. And they were all men, by the way, at first, and supplied some food to the colonists to survive. So then John Smith comes in 1608. There are 38 colonists left. So he takes a look around and says, oh, no, we're doing things differently. So the Virginia Charter is written by John Smith. And because Great Britain has sent him to take control and to fix this mess. So he makes some rules in this charter. And the big famous one that gives him one of the parents, the title as one of the parents of the capitalist system, or the system we use today, is he sets up one very important rule. You don't work, you don't eat. He gave them all land. The natives had already given them seeds. Like, you know what? You grow it, you eat it, you take care of yourself. It's amazing how many people were too sick to work or too important to work who suddenly realized, oh, I guess I can work if I'm not going to eat. So then it starts prospering. But he's sent back to England, which initiates the starving time because some of his rules are thrown out, in the colony from 1609 to 1610. There are still some people, most of them are still working, but they're still not, they have no profit. They're having problems with the natives who, by the way, these natives are an empire. They're an actual established, they're not just a small tribe, they're a group of tribes that are established their own little empire there. So here comes the next John, John Rolfe. John Rolfe had somehow gotten his hands on tobacco seeds, which, by the way, Spain would not sell. He had to have gotten it on a type of black market. It was actually, you would be going to prison, if not death, if you were caught by the Spanish government selling tobacco seeds. Yet somehow, nobody knows how, John Rolfe got his hands on tobacco seeds. So he comes back with these tobacco seeds. Once again, Spain is controlling the tobacco trade until this time. So this is going to become very profitable because now we can undersell Spain. So not only are we sending this back to Great Britain, Britain's going to start selling it to their friends and undercutting Spanish prices. So he introduces this breed of tobacco that he claims he found in South America. And Virginia becomes stable enough to create a society with a government. Why? Because they're bringing in a lot of money. And once they have this government, they set up in 1619 the House of Burgesses. Hint, hint, that's also one of your vocabulary words. So in 1619, Virginia creates a lawmaking body called the House of Burgesses. It is a democratically elected Senate. So you have the governor, yes. But now you've got these democratically elected representatives. And if you remember from last year when you were supposed to be learning about Thomas Jefferson, he was a member of the House of Burgesses. And the House is marked the start of representative government in North America. So if you ask me why I care, the House of Burgesses is the start of representative government in North America. And remember, as I said, in Great Britain it's just the Parliament. Or it's just the House of Lords and Parliament. There's no House of Commons yet. There's not even a Prime Minister yet in that year. It's going to be like another 100 or so. Walpole. So late 1700s. In the House of Lords, bunch of nobles. You've got that position because you're the Lord of so-and-so, the Duke of whatever. You were not elected. You were born. This is our first elected representative house. That is a nice picture or painting of the House of Burgesses. Remember though, for primary sources, some of these people are probably moved around, look more dignified than it usually did. Paintings should always be suspect to have did it actually just like that. Well, so we're doing well. We are planting, we are becoming this big colony, we are starting plantations, and in 1619, a Dutch ship arrives in Virginia and sells 20 slaves to the colonists of Jamestown. They did not necessarily serve for life, though. These guys were more like indentured servants. This is the same deal that, I believe I mentioned the Irish were getting, where you could earn your freedom back. So they worked for so long. I believe John Green talks about that with the indentured servants. If you're still alive by the end of a certain time, you're allowed to buy your freedom. Permanent slaves are not established in Virginia until the later 1600s. That's where you are a slave for life, and your children are born into slavery also. So that is Jamestown. Next class we're going to go over Plymouth. And yes, you'll have a DBQ on their charters. Have a good day.